we're going to take a look at how to solve a rational equation. Something like this. Here's an example of a rational equation here on the board behind me. Basically, we break it down into these steps. First, find the least common denominator. If you were going to add the fractions together, what was that common denominator that you would be trying to get between all of your fractions? Once you've determined that, then you don't actually worry about getting the common denominators. But what you do is you take both sides of the equation and you multiply both sides by that least common denominator to clear all the denominators and eliminate the fractions entirely from the problem. At that point, you just simplify, combine any like terms, and continue to do whatever is necessary to solve for x. Make sure you check your answers, make sure they don't violate any restrictions on variables, and they do in fact make your equations true whenever you find some solutions to this. So let's go ahead and take a look at this. Here I have an x minus 3 in the denominator. Here I have an x plus 3 in the denominator. And this over here actually has both of those factors, x minus 3 and x plus 3. So the least common denominator here would actually end up being what the denominator of this fraction is. It would be x minus 3, x plus 3, like that. So what I need to do is I need to multiply both sides of this equation by that. I need to multiply by x minus 3, x plus 3. Same thing over here. I need to multiply by x minus 3, x plus 3. Over here on this side, I'll simplify this first because that's even easier. This minus 3 and this minus x minus 3 cancel, and this x plus 3 and this x plus 3 cancel, and you're just left with 2. No fractions. Over here, you've got to take this thing and multiply it to each of these. When I multiply this into this first term here, the x minus 3 that's in the denominator would cancel with the x minus 3 that I'm multiplying by, and you would be left with needing to take this x and multiply it by this x plus 3. Again, the x minus 3 is canceled when you did that distributing there. When you take this and multiply it to the second term in here, the opposite one's going to cancel. The x plus 3 here will cancel out with that x plus 3. So you'll be left multiplying this x by the x minus 3 that's still left there. And at this point in time, you see that that process of multiplying both sides by the least common denominator has eliminated all fractions from this problem. Now I just need to do a little bit of work to clean this up and simplify and solve. So distribute over here, and I'm going to get x squared plus 3x plus x squared minus 3x is equal to 2. Combining my like terms, I have 2x squared. The plus 3x and the minus 3x cancel out, so I have 2x squared is in fact equal to 2. Dividing both sides by 2, I get x squared is equal to 1. And then finally taking the square root of both sides, I will get that x is equal to positive or negative 1. That doesn't violate any of the restrictions on the variables. The variables were not allowed to be 3 or negative 3. Those are what would have made the individual expressions undefined because they had a 0 in the denominator. So here we have our two solutions. We have x equals positive or negative 1. Pay attention to however you're being asked to write the answer. If you want to write it as plus or minus 1, that's fine. Some computer programs out there, a lot of times the one that I use for my class will ask to have the answers written in order from least to greatest. So then I'd say negative 1 and then 1. Like that, but just that's how that works. Clear the denominators with your least common denominator, and then continue to solve and make sure you don't violate any of your restrictions on your variables.